Brother, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio today, my man. We've been trying to tee this one up for a while, and this is our first episode. We were just discussing, I think it was 2016, 2017. Yeah. So I guess the first question is, what's fucking taking you so long to say yes to come back on?
I was waiting for your production values to lift. I mean, last time it was in a shitty studio. Now you're paying overs just to look pretty.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is hot. This is really good. I hope I look really handsome.
Oh, you do, mate. These guys are pretty good at editing. So,
thank fuck for Gen AI.
Mate, we were just discussing your, I guess, start in the world of entrepreneurship and business. And when we did our last interview, it was much closer to that period of your life.
When I was optimistic. Naive.
Yeah, please hang around, guys. Mate, a question that I was thinking about over the last couple of days since you finally agreed to come on again. How has what you are excited about in business or in life changed from back in 2013 to the present day?
Good question. That was straight from ChatGPT. But no, I'm only joking. The rest of them are.
There's two that I come up with in the rest
as prompts. This is the... No, I always try to approach life with that notion, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you choose? And ultimately chose pretty punchy things based on that concept around, growth is in discomfort. You know, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I've since learned that there's one thing better than being uncomfortable, and that's being comfortable. I think there's a balance, and I think that I just leant into the unknown. I felt pretty proud of that. Achieved more than I could have dreamed. However, it's not nearly as meaningful as the things you have within reach.
Yeah.
So I think Seth Godin, marketing mastermind, he talks about rather than doing what you love, love what you do.
Love what you do.
And often our struggle in life is to actually extract joy out of just what we're doing. Like we're always going, I will be happier when.
Yep.
Grass is always greener. And as someone who has stepped over that fence many times, there's just another fence. And you go, oh, it's a bit greener over there. And so I think I'm 46. I think I'm at that age now. They talk about life is two mountains. Yep. First one is about achievement. The second one is about meaning. And so I think I'm almost doubling back to do a lot of the things that I have enjoyed since my teens, but I'm now doing them with feeling.
With feeling.
Yeah.
Do you think you had to go through that period of time of ultimately just focusing on the achievements and then reaching essentially some of these lower points? Do you think you had to go through that to be able to recognise the importance of the feeling side?
Well, you have a lot of listeners that are younger than me, and they'll be hearing this and taking nothing from it. They won't, because they need to.
They're not ready to hear it yet.
They're just got to experience it themselves. I mean, that's the irony. People that are older goes, it goes so fast. Your kids grow up so fast. You get all these people from a generation above giving you tips, and it rationally all makes sense. You take it on board, but it's not tattooed until you lived it.
If you were to look at your let's say personal growth up until this point, if you were to know back in 2013 that you would have been in the position you're in now, more so from a personal side of things, like we've just discussed, would that have been a success in your eyes back then?
Say that again. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Even just the start of your question, which was if you could go back to 2013, I just went off and running because ironically, if you could see into the future, you would make decisions based on risk management.
Yep.
And you would look at the costs of certain decisions and paths and you just would avoid them. That's what we do.
Yep.
You go, oh, all right, do I want to go overseas? Oh, I don't want to go this time of year. I remember going overseas and it was too hot and we didn't enjoy. Like you just, so if you are infinitely wise or you could see ahead or you listened too much to people who had walked the path like me.
Yeah.
And you weren't naive enough to go, oh, that was them and I could do it better, which in fact, often you're not. You just end up getting tangled yourself and then having to untangle yourself. You would just be such a limp dick. I mean, if you could choose the safe path.
Yeah, exactly. Path of least resistance.
It would just, I mean, who are you? You'd have no character.
Yeah.
You'd have very little empathy. Because it would be pretty hard to empathise with other people, I think.
You have minimal lessons.
Your wisdom would be, you'd shrink. Your spirit would shrink. So it's, I mean, I think the benefit of not knowing, because there were many times Tribe, 11, 12 years, right? Plenty of times I go, whoa, if I knew what I was getting myself into, I wouldn't have done it. But then as everyone says, you wouldn't be this person.
Correct.
I feel battle weary, like I'm scarred.
Yeah. But have those scars, do you think ultimately made you a better person?
Yeah. I'm still pretty wounded. Yeah. Like I'm still coming out of it. Like the last 6 months of last year, 2024, I had a full meltdown. So just burnout.
Burning yourself out.
And I was sitting catatonic on the couch that's when we were going to do the podcast originally.
Correct, yeah.
Just your pressure alone put me under. Just knocked me off my feet. I was just like, DK, just coming at me.
It worked eventually.
I had to rebuild to get in this couch. No,
just on that note though, and obviously the experience is going to be different from person to person, but like what you've just said before around, okay, when you got someone saying, hey, this is essentially what you're going to experience, do you actually want to do this?
Yeah.
You're not going to fucking listen to it most of the time, right?
No.
So for someone that's listening at the moment that is either an entrepreneur, business owner, or someone who's just striving to, have growth in their life, can you just touch on like how much of a difficult period that was?
Yeah.
Just for some context.
Yeah.
I think people hear, burnout and it's like, oh, okay, you've had a couple of tough weeks at work and you're a bit wrecked, but there's a big difference.
Yeah. And just before I lose the thought, if I was saying to any entrepreneur, and you run workshops in your masterminds and shared experience is phenomenal. I'm not discounting that, but I am also saying that when you hear all of those stories, you're sort of putting them in your back pocket. So when you start to taste or feel or experience those things, they're easily accessible for you to go, oh, I remember that, that's that. So there is value in it. Secondly, I'm wounded, but I've still got my house. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't bet the farm. And, emotionally, there were times where I was so confident in the market dynamics and what we were going to do. many things out of our control, but many decisions were made. You would change them.
Yeah.
But we're okay. Whereas, and that's a pretty critical piece. You've got to know when to draw the line. So, how's the best way to describe my meltdown? Well, the universe gives you warnings. First with a feather, and then if you don't heed the warning, a brick, and if you ignore that, it hits you like a train.
Yeah.
And it just took the decision away from me.
You took the Jules Express.
Yeah. I had 6 weeks off at the end of a 9-week travel period. I was presenting Tribe at conferences in Santa Barbara, and then I was in Saudi Arabia. Then I was up in Cairns in Queensland. Then I went and did a meditation retreat.
Yep.
/ psychedelic experience. And then over to Cannes in the south of France. Then I came back and went on holidays with the family, and I was like so fueled by adrenaline, caffeine. I mean, I remember just being on holiday in these idyllic vistas going up to Cape Trib, and I'm just, all I can focus on is that shit driver in front of me who's going really slow. Like, it's just like, I'm like, we're on holiday and all I'm doing is overtaking people. Like, I was just so highly strung. And I'd had sort of moments of struggle, like where my anxiety, my nervous system was just inflamed. I realised by then I couldn't do exercise anymore, so I was still trying to, marathon training or even just anything. My whole body was just electric, and so had 6 weeks off to repair, and at the end of the 6 weeks, I was fucking cooked. Like, I was just in the deepest of holes because what I was trying to do was I stepped out of the adrenaline. So in the morning, I'd wake up exhausted. I could sleep for 15 hours and I'd still be tired, and I'd wake up and my body was cooked, and I'd scan in my brain, what have I got to do? And then I'd go, oh, fuck, I still haven't done that. And the rush of adrenaline, and I would jump out of bed. It was just fuel. Yeah. And I was always scanning.
Relying on those spikes.
No, I was just scanning, what's the threat? What's the threat? Oh, shit, I haven't got back to, oh, my God, I promised them. It was just this ongoing, and look, people would relate in business.
Yeah. Constantly fight or flight.
Oh, and, when you're in that activated state for too long, and if I was honest, I think I've been in that since I was a kid. Because, family life was playful and fun, but there were elements of that where I was in terror.
Yeah.
And then, I very quickly got into the media industry. And at 17, I was running life coaching workshops for year 12 students, and I was in year 12, and there were 300 kids. So that was like, talk about stepping out of your comfort zone. And I just I learned that lesson then. Yeah. And I just stayed out of my comfort zone. I just kept pushing it because the comfort zone would grow. I just kept pushing it. What's bigger? TV, radio. Now my business, I'm just going to globally take on as much adventure / success as I could. So then I stopped drinking coffee because I didn't need it really, and I was trying to just reset my body, and then I had no fuel. I actually had, so there was no adrenaline, there was no caffeine, I wasn't really eating sugar.
Cortisol through the roof most likely.
Yeah, and then my body went, righto fuckhead, you've just disconnected all of your sources of fuel. What do you think we're running on? And I'm like, rest, healthy food. Like, it just was not, it didn't know how to process it for fuel. And so I had to, this is how I I felt like I had to wait like 3 months until my body
regulated itself.
Yeah. And so I was on the couch, could hardly move. I mean, I couldn't even listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
Especially yours. It's exhausting.
I get that a lot though, regardless of burnout, to be honest.
No, I couldn't process. Like my brain, like it didn't know where to, it had so little energy. It was like, right, what do you want to do? I'd have a shower in the morning and I was cooked. So then I had to start a full 6-month program of which worked. And most of it was me reminding myself, you can't rush your healing.
Yeah.
It was really frightening because I genuinely, and I kept asking psychiatrists, psychologists, naturopath, spiritual healer, I kept asking everyone, how do you know I'm going to get better? Because the lens I'm looking at the world. Yeah, and don't forget, that's just the energy bit, but the actual dark.
The mentality side of it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was like, because even still today when I'm flat or broken, it's like it really is a lens that you look at your entire future. In fact, you look at everything.
Everything, yeah.
And so if you look at, it's like the upside down in Stranger Things. It's like the same world, but it's just dark and I'm looking at everything through that lens. The next day I can be happy again and I just have a different lens.
Yeah.
I cannot believe the good version the day
difference
before.
of the perspective of your life.
I just can't get to
between
it.
the two.
It's like so weird.
How did you manage that you said before, this is going to be something that takes time. So you mentioned 6 months, right?
Yeah.
How did you manage that being someone who essentially prioritizes speed?
Well,
right? Speed of growth, speed of progression.
It was productivity. The relationship with productivity, being productive was so hard to break. And the only way I could continue to break it down was I was just given no choice.
Yeah. So just quickly, so you mean as in getting to the end of a day or a week and feeling no fulfillment because there was no productivity, which had always been your gauge of essentially like happiness
value
and growth and value. Yeah.
Just growth. So I'll give you an example. My CEO, the board says, you got 6 weeks off. And I'm going, oh my God, I've never had 6 weeks off. This is exactly what I need. I'm going to declutter the crap out of my house. I'm going to finally get my fitness back up.
Yep.
I'm going to sell that classic car that's been sitting there. I'm going to get to life admin. And it was, Anna was almost the voice of my spirit, my wife, because she was like, stop fucking trying to grow. Yeah. You have to heal. Like it was, I can't even tell you how difficult it was because I've never done that. It's always like, I'll give you stupid shit. I remember being at summer camp for 2 months and you felt like you couldn't progress. For me, that was like, so I was like, what am I going to do here? For me, it was a tan. I remember at the time going, well, I'm just going to progress my tan. That's the one thing I can control. Like to give you an example.
That's how you're hardwired, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, all right, I got to put it down to something. So what I had to do is, as you said, rewire my healing and trying to nail my healing. So I actually had to work really hard in not working. I had to, I made that healing and it was really difficult. And that's why, and I had to unlearn heaps. Like, the oxygen mask theory, I had to really practice that. I had to let people down. I actually wrote because I really, it sounds odd, but I attacked it methodically to do almost nothing. So, but it was like, one of them was just let people down. Just, you've got to let people down. Yeah. Like, because I couldn't say no to that person because I'll let them down. I had to go straight to the source of what the agonizing piece was, and I let people down, which was, I can't catch up with that person. I can't do that favor. I can't, was really difficult.
what do you feel is the underlying kind of origin of all that shit, if that makes sense? As in, what is it? It's obviously like if I was to, articulate it how I see it, there's obviously a form of that progress or that progression is just a sense of validation, or it almost feels like without it, you felt like your worth was less. Am I right to say that or no?
Yeah, I mean, look, in the nicest possible way, my dad's not hardwired that way. Like he was very comfortable working in a job, coming home, very playful, progression, even financially. He's over his lifetime, but he wasn't a building blocks type of guy, right? And in actual fact, his sense of enjoyment exceeds most people. He's happy, optimistic. He's, she'll be right, everything works out.
Yeah.
My mentor, though, was the opposite. He was
Is this Jim?
Yeah, Jim Steins. So Jim was everything's a learning opportunity. And why do you learn things? To reapply it. And so, which I loved, but there was this sense of urgency. It was like, make the most of your life, which I still, it's like you only have a short moment, extract all the value. Funnily enough, your reaction to all of that messaging around you got one shot, it all, if you don't question it, it all sounds like more, when in actual fact, as I'm learning, it's sort of less, and more from the important things.
Yeah.
Because you can accumulate even adventures. Like for me, I was collecting life experiences. I still do.
Yeah.
Like I got bitten by a snake the other day. My daughter's got a snake.
Really?
Yeah. And I was just like, fuck yeah. I've just ticked that off that bucket
finally
list.
tick that one off.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I still get a thrill out of
getting bitten by snakes.
Yeah. Well, I still get a thrill out of just that whole gamut of new experiences.
Adventure.
Yeah. But what I'm interrogating now is the cost.
Yeah.
And I'm now, they say stop managing time and manage your energy. The biggest lesson is that I realize that it's not infinite. And I'm someone who has always had a lot of energy.
Yep.
I ran out of it. Like I just spent too much. And now I have to really think about it. Like I have to go, I realize that my battery takes a lot to recharge. And so now I'm sort of stripping more things and really.
Try not to allow it to get to the point where it needs to be fully recharged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I just came back from Cannes again, 12 months on. It's a Cannes Lions Festival, it's a big advertising festival. It's just obscene. I mean, the amount of money, you've never seen anything like it. You just, like the tech companies, the Googles, TikToks, Spotifys, Amazons, they set up on the beaches and they're festivals and they bring the biggest stars out and it's just left, right and centre. I can't even, but it's the biggest wank fest in the world. I mean, it's like stepping into LinkedIn.
That's why they've got you as a guest speaker, right?
Exactly. I was the king of Moomba. But it is, it's like everyone's flexing, we're having so much fun, look at us taking photos. And I reckon no one's really enjoying it. And I was saying to my CEO, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Because I feel nothing here. I said, I visually look at it, it's pretty.
Yeah.
But this kills me. I feel like it's just too much. I don't want to. And he's like, you know what? That's actually how you should be feeling. Everyone else, if they were honest, is feeling the same.
Yeah.
Like that's the same as LinkedIn. Yeah. I'm so successful. And so I'm so blessed to have got it, but everyone's just sort of, it's all a bit of bullshit.
Yeah.
And so, in that environment, for me now, I look at it from an energy point of view and I go, right, what have I got to do across the week? How am I going to sustain my energy?
Distribute it, yeah.
Yeah, because it's, I know it sounds stupid, but on night one, I went to the dinner and the dinner didn't come out for a few hours. It was Scott Galloway, who's a great marketing professor, Prof G, and he's speaking and it was hot. He does his speech literally in front of us, gets up, gets in his car, fucks off, 20 minutes in. It was meant to be a dinner with him. And then we all sit around for another 3 hours small talking it was an intimate dinner. It was like the who's who. But by the end of that, I was having not eat, that was at 7 and 10 o'clock the meals come out and I was like burnt out. And the next day I was like cooked, starting my week cooked. So I've just got to be really cautious of that. And the only reason I say that, because it seems like an extreme example. It's not that relatable to people. The reason I say that is because there's one thing worse than elements of your life snapping like it did for me, which is it's staying in a strange state indefinitely.
Yeah, I really like this. You said this to me in the gym a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me.
Well, the point being is, and you look at the different dimensions of your life. So let's go family, friends, physical health, mental health, career, finances, spirituality, community. That's usually a bit of a. If people were really honest and they did an audit of their satisfaction in those areas, it'd be kind of interesting. In your 40s, late 30s, it's really tough because you've never had more plates to spin and each one the stakes are higher, right? So in business, you've really leveraged yourself. Your finances are under pressure. It's at the same time you've taken on a massive mortgage. Your parents, you start parenting them. Your kids are growing, but so are their problems.
Yep.
When you catch up with your friends, if you get to, you're actually not creating new experiences. You're just catching up, usually on the piss.
Yep.
Your health is, by and large, neglected at times.
Yep.
Your relationship, depending on your kids and your work, like it's kind of easy to have a housemate as opposed to investing in a romantic relationship where love is at the forefront. Like there's just a lot of, and so you're under an enormous amount of pressure. And a lot of those elements, if people are really honest, are under strain.
Yep.
Right? And we sort of don't do too much about it. If a few of those things get challenged at the same time like it did with me.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on in my life. Business just, God, I felt like I was swimming against the current. Business is going great, don't get me wrong, but even when it's going great, it's still challenging.
Yep.
Mum, dementia for a few years and she only passed a month ago. That was weighing on me. My kids are struggling for year 7. Financially, we're like, all right, when's the business going to give us some cash back so we can enjoy these things? My health, as I say, I was there going, I'm emotionally exhausted from work, but physically I'm not like, I'm not landscaping here.
Yep.
So then I'd go out and try to have a sense of control because, you felt like you couldn't control your business. You're doing everything in your control, but you're not getting rewards. So you're like, well, I know how to get a reward. I'm going to train, do a marathon and feel like I've achieved something because of the progression. But then
go back into trying to control.
Yeah, but the funny thing about like mental, emotional depletion is actually physical.
It is.
And so I would go and, push myself, go mountain biking or, there was 18 months there that I was skydiving because I was so numb from sort of COVID.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to wake the F up here. So got my sports skydiving license, great for my nervous system in retrospect. And then I was just jumping out of planes. But physically I was just sort of depleting. And so, a lot of alcoholics talk about how lucky that their situation was so bad they had to quit alcohol.
Yeah.
As opposed to their friends that have this sort of alcoholism that can last a lifetime.
Because they never reach that point.
Yeah. And so my situation the decision was taken away from me, and I have to, like, because I've stepped out of Tribe now and I'm on the board.
Yep.
Because that environment after 11 years, and it actually, I was a fish out of water. Like, it's not my purpose, it's not my expression. I was an opportunist. You know, I could see the way, the tectonic plates were shifting in technology and content creation and creators, which there was no real term for that then. Media, like I could see it all in it because I was in a unique position as being one of all of those elements. But like most people learn with business is it doesn't matter if you're a florist, a butcher, a triathlete. The moment you create a business around it, you become a businessman or a businesswoman. And the business is 90% of it, and the passion that sits as the core is 10%. And that is, a lot of people go, nah, I want to stick with I don't mind working for someone else because I get to enjoy and express. And that was a really unique lesson for me. But as I say, whilst my scenario of things blowing up is extreme, the opportunities for people to ask, what in my life is under strain? What needs to be addressed? Is there a toxic relationship that I need to cut? Is there a vice? You know, is it drinking, vaping, like you, crystal meth that you import through protein bottles? Very clever, by the way. One of your best entrepreneurial ideas. You know, like, is
Tell
it?
them the truth. You gave me the idea.
What's that?
Tell them the truth. You gave me the idea.
Well, I tested it. So that's sort of what I'm passionate about now is trying to help people have a holistic view and just tweak the dials and address areas in their life and take micro actions.
From a personal growth or personal development perspective, and it's going to be, you know, individual by individual, but what do you feel has been the most impactful understanding, or maybe it's essentially a framework or probably better yet, a belief that you've had to kind of let go of that has had the biggest impact on you in a positive way, especially over this last kind of 6 to 12 months?
There's been so much. I mean, and I'm so grateful for the meltdown. But I literally had to break down to break through.
Yeah.
And then I think within that is all sorts of midlife crisis type things. Like I'm interested in, you know, I talked about the spinning plates.
Yeah.
I'm interested, I mean, I hate the term because you imagine a red sports car and a small dick. But I got the car. But
2 for 1 special.
But there's been an enormous amount of reflection. Like it felt, I was just going so fast. When I stopped, I felt like I had 20 years of processing, like debriefing, like fuck. I just had waves and waves of nostalgia. Like that moment, it all just came back. It's almost like it just wasn't processed.
You almost just pushed
because
to
I
the
was just
side so you can
moving
keep
so
going.
fast. And then there's all this mortality. You know, as I mentioned, my mum passed, which sort of brings up a lot of that. Jim Stein's my mentor. You know, I've just grown older than him because he passed away at 45 and gave me plenty of lessons on his deathbed. And so I've been sort of playing with those over the last 13 years. How have I gone with them? You know, he looked me dead in the eye and said, don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. And I was like, okay. And I saw what regrets he had. You know, I remember him looking out of his hospital window once and he was reflecting on this big A4 leather-bound diary of his that he carried with him everywhere. And he said, he used to, whenever he saw a gap, he'd fill it because he was making the most of his life, like every minute.
Yeah.
But he said, you know what you don't write in your diary? Jump on the bike with the kids, walk down to the cafe with your wife, pop in on a mate. He said, I just scheduled all that out inadvertently. I should have left more space.
Yeah.
And that space is actually the biggest lesson. And also thought process, the frequency of your thoughts. Like you'd be the same. You listen to podcasts, driving, walking, we're trying to learn more.
Absorbing all the time.
But what if you just didn't stimulate your brain as much?
Yeah.
And you actually just listen in silence. One of the biggest things that got me out of, it was a combination of, it was 50 pillars that I had to place to get myself out of the hole.
Yeah.
But in conjunction with each other, the synergy helped, right? So got everything in place, and I did a silent retreat up in Byron Bay for 3.5 days, 14.
Vipassana, is that what it's called?
Vipassana? Yeah. I mean, there was Ayurvedic food, and the chef was there. We did 8 hours of meditation a day. They were like 14-hour days, a lot of learning.
Yep.
The guru is, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, who is this, it's unique. Whether you take the guru learnings or not, I'm open to everything, and I play with it, and I go a bit of that. And anyway, there were 14 others, and you couldn't talk, you couldn't make eye contact, you couldn't gesture, you couldn't read, couldn't listen to music for 3.5 days. And so naturally your phone was completely off. And so you just meditate all day. The Pass, the most beautiful beach in the country, at Byron Bay, I'd go there during a break. I'd just have enough time to walk down there, go for a dip, walk back. Sun was out, the lizards are everywhere. There was a koala. It was awesome. Anyway, by the end of that, I haven't experienced bliss like it, like actual bliss.
To get to that point of experiencing the bliss throughout that 3.5 days, at what point, if at all, did you have to move through the most resistance mentally?
Well, I'm pretty open with new experiences.
Yep.
Ironically, a lot of people who had done it before really struggled.
Okay.
So I don't know why, but they'd done it and they came back and it was really difficult. I think I was bottomed out where talking, because one thing about my mental health was talking about my mental health didn't help. And I'm so honest that people go, oh, can you come to this party or whatever? And I say, nah, I'm not in great space. And then I'd have someone add to the list of checking in on me. You were brilliant. You're on the list. But, people they're like, are you okay? How you going? But, I'd wake up, there'd be 10, 15 because you just collect them along the way because I'd be honest. It was a job. Yeah. And then you're really asking yourself. And so being on the retreat, I didn't have to talk. But it was also what we were just talking about, the stimulation.
Yep.
And the phone. It was, I'll do it every year. I've booked in again. So I'll do it every year as a reset because I came back, a bit like when you give up coffee.
Yep.
Anything that has power over you, fast. Alcohol, so I took, a year off and then came back for a few months and then went, no, actually, I don't really need it. Year off, come back for a few months and go, nah, actually, I don't need it at all.
Yeah.
Like I took the power back.
Yep.
Now I can dip in. You can dip in with certain things. I took the power back over my day and being present.
Yeah.
And it doesn't last.
And what was getting your attention?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've meditated or deep breathing every day since September. So what's that?
Beautiful.
Sort of maybe could be close to 300 days. I don't know.
Yeah. 9 months, is it?
Yeah. So that's a way to practice.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what's the most valuable lesson or takeaway that you got from your mum?
Oh. Getting old doesn't look so flash. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. Promise me, let's just not get old. Pinky swear? No, they just are bored and sore. Like I spent 3 years in aged care, you know, watching her and all the people around her. I mean, I know plenty don't go that way, but fuck. Like, you just deteriorate. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know I mean, you know, we got people that are trying to life hack and live forever. Fuck that. Their last 20 years will be shit. Like, I get the point that then there's 15 years before that when would have been shitty that they've extended. But I don't know. And then it really does. I mean, there's all the cliches. We gave Mum a phenomenal send-off, but she's not there. I mean, I know, you feel the spirit around you, and I get it. She's witnessing it. But it doesn't mean, I think people's life, our life won't mean much, like decades after. I mean, your grandparents, when was the last time you mentioned your grandparents?
Yeah.
And go great-grandparents, literally.
Yeah, of course. Hormozy says he's tweeted this a bunch of times, which kind of ties into what you're saying. He was like, I think the first time he posted it had been like 3 months. He was like, it's been 3 months since Queen Elizabeth has passed away, probably one of, if not the most well-known, powerful, most recognisable people in the whole entire world, and you have not thought about her once until you read this tweet. Yeah. And so essentially just saying that like, once it's like, people will move on, people will forget.
Yeah. It's a sobering thought.
Does that thought for you personally, does that, a thought like that, does that feed into wanting to make the most of the present moment?
Well, I mean, that's... it's the obvious connection that we have these thoughts and then we bring it back. But perspective is like vapor too. You're feeling shit about yourself. All of a sudden, you hear about a horrific car accident of a father with 2 kids and you go, fuck, my life's so much better. An hour later, you're shitty with the speeding fine. Like, it's very difficult. Like I'm pretty pragmatic around, that's why they call it practice, meditation, because you have to practice gratitude. Yeah. You constantly, and I think the theory around a gratitude journal's awesome. I just can't be fucked, but I believe in that. Yeah. But you gotta, I don't know what, I'm in a state of flux because I don't know, honestly, I'm questioning the whole meaning of everything. Like, this is why I talk about midlife crisis. You start to, as I go from achievement to meaning, I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm trying to rewrite and reprogram and architect my future right now. I've got an opportunity. As I say, I've stepped out of tribe. I'm on the board. I've got a lot of time back. How am I allocating that time? Do I want to build? Do I want to be uncomfortable? Do I want to swing big, but swing big from something that feels effortless? Do I prioritize money? Where do I'm wise enough to know I know fuck all. But that's my point. You realize that so I don't know what it looks like. Like where are the fun moments? I think if you were really honest, you would, if I could have my sense of joy and satisfaction be my North Star.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to not make decisions based on money, growth, what's good for other people. It'd be an interesting thing because growth, I don't think it's that instinctive growth. I think we're programmed because we're ambitious and we want, we desire.
We value it.
We desire.
Yeah.
I don't know if the happiest people on the planet desire as much as those that are ambitious. And I reckon desire, if you could, I mean, it's like anything. If you could regulate desire, I reckon we'd all be happy if we could turn it down in every capacity.
2 minutes? Is that right? See. In 12 months from this exact moment, let's also hope it doesn't take another fucking, how many years was it? 8 or 9 years between episodes. We'll try and shorten that one a little bit. Yeah. In 12 months from now, what needs to happen, or where do you need to be at, like mentally and just in life in general, for you to look at that 12 months and go, I'm right where I want it to be, right where I need to be?
I've had a really full and I'd say adventurous life. So I started in art, graphic design. I then moved into, I was more passionate about working with teenagers and doing life coaching. And that's where I stood up in front of schools for, 10, 15 years, running workshops, asking them, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? They asked me and I said, fuck, I'd love to work on Getaway. And so I set that goal, and for 12 months, I did everything in my power. I had no connections and no right to be traveling the globe in my 20s, getting paid, having the world's most death-defying and thrilling adventures, right? But I was just like, that one, why not? Someone's got to fill that role. Yeah. Why not me? Did that for 10 years, did a whole heap of other things. Then I was like, radio seems fun. Yeah. Had the world's best time on radio. Then I said, there's something here in social. Rather than me digging for gold, I said, I'm going to sell shovels. And I didn't want to work for a network. I wanted to build one. Yeah. So I built that sits today. Ironically, I'm now going back to those exact same things. So at the start of this year, I started running life coaching type stuff for corporates. Then this is me getting out of the hole. I'm like literally after a 4.5 hour workshop up in Brisbane at the casino, I'm like, I sit in the cubicle, I'm in tears. I'm like, fuck, 6 weeks earlier, you couldn't walk the dog. Yeah. Like this is, and I got an email from my old mate Fifi Box and Leon at Fox saying, can you fill in for Fev and do radio? I was on air with her for 3 years. I was like, shit, I got the time. Yeah. Did that. I get an email that afternoon going, do you want to come and do some stuff for Getaway? Yep. So that's booked in. Beautiful. And then the Reach Foundation, which I did, the life coaching, I'm now working with them. So I was at a school workshop this morning, one that I designed 25 years ago, seeing how it runs today, and it still hits the mark. It's just there's probably been 100 facilitators do that since. Yeah. And I'm seeing these kids be transformed in front of my eyes. So this is what I mean. I'm going back one more loop, and now I'm just going to stick with the things that I love, and it feels better. I care about it. I've just got to calibrate what fulfillment looks like, because my tendency will be to go, what does this look like at scale? And so that's where I need my wife Hannah again to say, slow the fuck down. So that's going to be. So in 12 months, I'm hopefully sharper on my vision. And then the key to it is going, all right, how do I make as much money, make as much impact with as little effort and as much joy? Yeah. Like if I get a formula right, rather than me trying to redline and burn to try to make myself uncomfortable. because, wow, that's where the growth is. Maybe I don't want to, maybe I'll grow in a gentler way.
Let's book it in 12 months from now.
Yeah.
We're going to do another episode, brother.
Yep. And if I haven't achieved all that, we'll just re-edit this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We will.
Okay, let me just give you an alternate so we can do a choose your own adventure.
Okay, sure.
I want to get really fat. I want to take up crystal meth, and I thought maybe I'd sell a house, and I want to, I don't know, I think I'm going to steal Lime scooters and sell the batteries.
Brother, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time, and I absolutely love every single time we get to connect. I'm so grateful that we did connect that many years ago. You've been very, very influential for me and my life so far. And as I said, I'm just very grateful that we've got a great friendship and connection, and I'm really excited to see what the next 12 months looks like for you. And I don't know how much it means coming from someone like myself, but you should be extremely proud of yourself.
Thank you, buddy.
Extremely proud of yourself, because you already do add so much impact and value to so many people's lives, and you've done some fucking incredible things that most people don't ever dream of. So appreciate you coming in today, Jules.
Thank you, buddy. And I should have acknowledged you more throughout that, because the only reason I'm sitting here is because watching you not just have a hunger, but actually back it up with action, and not just sort of flaring action, but consistency. You are a guiding light for so many others that actually need to learn about showing up. You just keep showing up and putting yourself out there. And I know a lot of people that do that, and it's a bit of bullshit because they're jumping on trends, but you are always ahead of the trends, but you've always also just applied yourself. And I reckon how enlightened and evolved you are makes you such a bloody good coach. So I thank you. You're a lot younger than me, so it shits me that you're smarter. But, you know, thank you, mate. I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Heaps better looking as well.
Yeah, I am.
I appreciate that
Oh,
a lot.
you?
No, me. Yeah.
Oh, how delusional.
I really appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much. And for those who have tuned in, thank you. If you've taken some value, which I have no doubt that you would have, we'd love for you guys to share this episode on your social media, or to send a link to someone who you care about. I'll have the link to all of Jules' socials and all his upcoming value that he's going to be adding, and opportunities that you guys can have to work with Jules, which I could not recommend any higher. So appreciate you guys being here. Jules, thanks again.
Thanks,
Have a great
buddy.
afternoon.